Good afternoon. I am Heather Westerfield, Chair of the Commission on School Accreditation. This special called meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation is being held today, Wednesday, July 18th, 2018, at 1 p.m. in the 4th floor boardroom, Central High School Building, 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of the meeting will be recorded. At this time, we will determine if a quorum of the commission is present. Commission members, as I state your name, please state your location. Kelly Barfield.
Present, 4th floor boardroom.
Don Brewer.
Present, Madison Central High School, Madison, Mississippi.
Kenny Bush. Sarah Foster.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson.
Roy Gill.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Brian Harvey.
Present, Oxford High School, Oxford, Mississippi.
Ann Jones. Michael Lindsay. Valencia Martin.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson.
Michael Miller.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Don Mistelis. Anthony Montgomery.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Eddie Prather. Rob Tyner.
Present, Sumner, Mississippi.
A quorum of the commission is present in the 4th floor boardroom at Central High School for the purpose of conducting this meeting. This meeting is called to order at 1:17 p.m. At this time, I will ask Sarah Foster to please lead us in the invocation.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us, and we thank you for this opportunity to come together. I pray that you will be with each member of the commission as I pray that you give us wisdom as we deliberate over the information that will be presented to us. Father, I thank you for all of your many blessings, and I thank you for your Son. In your name I pray.
Foster? Item 2, commission members, you have received a copy of the agenda. At this time, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
Anthony Montgomery, so moved.
Second. Any discussion? All right, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members that are on the phone, all in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, item 3, a report on the existence of an extreme emergency situation regarding the safety, security, and educational interest of the children enrolled in the Noxubee County School District. Commission members and guests, please note for this portion of our meeting, we will follow the process in the State Board of Education approved accreditation audit procedures. To begin, we will allow the Office of Accreditation to present for 40 minutes. After they have finished, the district will be allowed to present for 40 minutes. Commission members, we ask please do not interrupt the Office of Accreditation or the district during their allotted 40 minutes. Following the district's time presentation, the commission will be allowed to ask questions of either party. After questions, the commission will entertain closing argument from the legal representative for the district. Then the commission will entertain closing argument from the legal representative for the Office of Accreditation. Each attorney shall be allotted 10 minutes. All right, so we have our representation from MDE, I believe, first. As you speak, if you just identify yourself for the record, please.
I'm Paula Vanderford. Chief Accountability Officer for the Department of Education. On June the 12th, 2018, Dr. Felicia Gavin, our Chief Operations Officer, received a letter from the Superintendent of the Knoxville County School District expressing the need for financial assistance for cash flow purposes. Upon receipt, Dr. Wright, the State Superintendent of Education, directed the MDE to conduct an investigative audit in accordance with Accreditation 5.0 of the Mississippi Public Schools Accountability Standards 2018. The audit began on June the 25th, 2018 and concluded on July 3rd, 2018. Prior to this audit, the MDE conducted a limited legislative audit in February of 2013. The demographics for the Knoxville County School District are displayed on the screen. All the findings that were described in the report provided to you on Friday, July the 13th, are based on the analysis of the data collected during the on-site evaluation, including but not limited to interviews conducted with district staff, observations and completed evaluation forms, analysis of official documentation on file in the district, and the analysis of official reports submitted to the MDE. The rationale for the consideration of a state of emergency is displayed on the screen, but is based on serious violations of federal and state law and accreditation standards, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a continued pattern of poor academic performance. In 2013, the MDE conducted an unannounced accreditation audit in the district as part of the ongoing legislative audits in all C, D, and F rated districts. The procedures included an evaluation of a limited number of accreditation standards and accountability requirements of the State Board of Education. The timelines displayed for you on the screen. During that limited audit, the MDE evaluated 29 of the 37 process standards that existed at the time. The MDE found the district non-compliant with 18 of the 29 process standards that were evaluated. As a reminder, the legislative audits do not include process standards related to financial accountability or any federal regulation. The Commission on School Accreditation later downgraded the district to probation in September of 2013, and at that time, 4 process standards remained on record. In 2014, the district cleared those 4 process standards, and the Commission upgraded the district to accredited. Since 2015, the district has continually failed to comply with Process Standard 4, which is submitting the annual audit during the required time frame. The MDE provided the district with the on-site investigative audit report on July the 13th, and the report included notice and the purpose of today's meeting. The report's being made to the Commission today in accordance with Mississippi Code 37-17-612B, which is projected on the screen, and based on the findings outlined in the on-site report for the Knoxville County School District. The charge of the Commission today is to determine whether an emergency situation exists in the Knoxville County School District that jeopardizes the safety, security, and educational interests of the children enrolled in the district, and whether or not that emergency situation is related to serious violations of federal and state law and accreditation standards, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a continued pattern of poor academic performance. The report indicates that the district is non-compliant with Accreditation Policy 2.1 and 26 of the 32 process standards that the MDE has evaluated, as well as multiple state and federal laws. It should be noted that there is a significant overlap in the findings from the 2013 audit and the findings of the 2018 audit. Accreditation Policy 2.5 outlines the 8 areas for the most egregious violations that would allow the Commission to immediately downgrade a district to probation or withdrawn. Those are displayed for you on the screen, but would like for you to note that the district is non-compliant in 7 of those 8 areas. That would be reporting false information, Accreditation Policy 2.1, fail to implement appropriate standards of governance, Process Standards 1, 1.1, and 1.3, fail to comply with school board policies that meet state and federal statutes, Process Standard 1.2, failure to comply with financial accountability requirements of a serious nature, standards 4 and 5, failure to comply with graduation requirements, standard 14, failure to comply with federal programs whose regulations call for strong sanctions for a continued pattern of noncompliance, all of which are found within standard 17, and failure to comply with standards that pose life-threatening conditions for students and staff, standards 29, 30, and 31. Additionally, based on communications with the district, their cash flow statement, and the most recent report from the Office of the State Auditor, there are serious concerns related to financial resources and a failure to comply with accountability requirements. Dr. Felicia Gavins, a Chief Operations Officer, will present those findings and concerns later in the presentation. The district also failed to implement a coherent, cohesive, high-quality instructional management system that clearly defines the academic goals necessary for improving student achievement. The district also has more than 50% of the schools within the district rated as an F, and the district has also met the State Board of Education's definition of having a failing school district, an F, for 2 consecutive years, as evidenced by the pattern of the poor academic performance. In MDE's opinion, these serious violations jeopardize the safety, security, and educational interests of the students enrolled in the Knoxville County School District. So we'll begin just with a highlight of educational interest. The district, as I previously stated, is non-compliant with 26 of 32 process standards. Each of those 26 non-compliant standards have an impact on the educational interest of the students that are enrolled in the district. However, in this presentation, we'll focus only on the violations believed to have the greatest impact on the safety, security, and educational interests of those children. Again, I would like to emphasize that the 7 areas previously highlighted under 2.5 are the areas that do have the greatest impact on student achievement. They're not administrative or procedural. To begin with the instructional management piece, as the educational leader of the district, the superintendent has failed to ensure the implementation of the instructional management plan that clearly defines the academic goals necessary for improving student achievement. This is a direct violation of state law, which states that the superintendents, principals, and teachers are required to enforce the course of study that's prescribed by the State Board of Education. The most current instructional management plan provided was for the 2016-17 school year, but the district failed to produce board minutes indicating that instructional management plan had been approved by the board in accordance with Process Standard 20. The documentation provided during this on-site investigation indicated that the board last approved an instructional management system or plan in 2006. A third-party contractor created lesson plan templates which the school district used in the middle school and high school. However, the lesson plan template consistently failed to include teachers' names, dates, school name, and activities. Furthermore, the lesson plans failed to include the activities, assignments, and assessments under the curriculum frameworks and substandards. The lesson plans also failed to include any tiered intervention. And so the schools also failed to provide documentation of the multi-tiered system of support. The districts failed to implement a professional development program aligned with the Learning Forward standards for professional learning as required by Process Standard 15. The findings include, but are not limited to, the district's failure to provide a 2017-18 professional development calendar, failure to provide a schedule or agendas or sign-in sheets of regularly scheduled professional development meetings, failure to provide a list of teacher committee assignments to various leadership teams, failure to provide a school schedule that reflects leadership team meeting times, failure to provide a copy of the evaluation of the 2016-17 professional development plan, and failure to provide data that supports the goals for the 2017-18 professional development plan. And looking at the areas for early childhood and kindergarten, which is Process Standard 17.1 and 17.2, findings include, but are not limited to, failure to document teacher and assistant teacher education qualification requirements, failure to document professional development provided to assistant teachers, and administrators, failure to develop lesson plans that consistently and adequately address the current instructional standards required by MDE, failure to plan evaluation of children's progress using MDE standards for social and emotional development, failure to conduct hearing and vision screenings for all kindergarten students within 30 days of enrollment, failed to provide a variety of techniques, procedures, and tools to determine individual students' social, emotional, and academic enrichment needs, failed to meet the required student-teacher ratio in pre-kindergarten classrooms, failed to produce immunization forms, failed to provide physical activity for a minimum of 30 minutes during the school day, failed to provide parents with a 17-18 handbook, failed to schedule the required number of parent-teacher conferences, and failed to ensure the school environment for the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten students is safe and secure. With library services, the overall collection of each library failed to represent a well-balanced, broad range of current learning media, including books in print, up-to-date instructional technology, periodicals, teacher resources, and equipment. Findings include, but are not limited to, failed to offer completely automated library collections, which hinder users in finding resources located in the school library, failure to train teachers and students on how to use the automated library system, the Magnolia database, and other non-print resources, failure to account for multiple copies of a single title in a collection, failure to maintain a collection of materials that represents a well-balanced, broad range of current learning media, included up-to-date the technology, failure to provide adequate funding to purchase school library materials and resources, failure to develop and utilize a school library advocacy committee, or develop a public relations plans to promote the school library, failure to provide a library climate conducive to learning and improving student achievement, and the average copyright age of the collection does not meet the minimum age requirement of 10 years. Graduation requirements are outlined in Process Standard 14. The district failed to ensure that all graduating seniors in school year 17-18 met the minimum requirements for graduation in accordance with the standard. The MDE reviewed records for 117 graduating seniors for school year 17-18 at the high school. However, 118 students were listed on the commencement program. So one of the students that were listed on the commencement program was not in MSIS. The district failed to publish current and consistent information in board policy and student handbooks regarding graduation requirements. The district failed to provide documentation to verify that all graduating seniors earned the minimum number of Carnegie units and earned a passing score on all 4 of the subject area tests or met one of the options in lieu of passing the test. The district allowed 2 students who did not earn the minimum number of Carnegie units required to graduate and participate in graduation exercises. The district allowed 22 students who did not pass all 4 end-of-course subject area tests or meet one of the options in lieu of passing the test to graduate and participate in graduation exercises. So in total, the district allowed 24 students to participate in graduation exercises without the documentation to support that they had met the graduation requirements outlined in Process Standard 14. Of all 117 student records reviewed, they all lacked grade labels on cumulative folders, a summary of Carnegie units on the transcript, and score reports or labels for all 4 end of subject area tests are evidence that they had met one of the options in lieu of passing the test. The district does not have a current board-approved policy for promotion, progression, and retention of students. The student handbook currently used in the district from the 15-16 school year. Errors and inconsistencies exist in the board policies and student handbooks regarding the promotion, progression, and retention of students. MDE could not identify a board policy, an approved board policy that addressed the implementation of a uniform grading policy and process that complies with Mississippi Code 3711-64 and 3711-66. During confidential interviews with district staff, evidence such as cumulative folders, permanent records, class rosters, attendance report, and failure list were provided, which indicated that the district promoted students that should have been retained. The MDE could not verify that students enrolled in any grade higher than grade 6 maintain a cumulative grade point average of 2.0 or above, was suspended from participation in extracurricular activities as required by the policy because the district does not have a current board-approved grading policy. In relation to student records, the MDE reviewed permanent records and cumulative folders for students for school year 17-18. These records failed to contain all the required data, and they were not collected, maintained, and disseminated as mandated by state law. Examples include, but are not limited to, records lack the required course grade information, They lack the required enrollment or withdrawal information, lack standardized test data, lack daily attendance record, lacked a summary of the high school Carnegie units. They failed to include parents' names as recorded on birth certificates. There were different addresses recorded on the cumulative folder in the permanent record. Records lacked the required residency documentation as well as the required immunization documentation. Overall, the board policies for the enrollment requirements as outlined in Process Standard 6, the district does not have current board policies for residency requirements, immunization requirements, and age entry requirements. So again, the most current board-approved student handbook is from the 15-16 school year. Licensed staff, district professional positions requiring licensed staff are filled by individuals who are not properly licensed and endorsed as required by state and federal law. Based on the MSIS data report for 17-18 as of July 2018, the district reported 297 employees, 166 were certified staff, and 131 were non-certified. About 30.12% or 30 FTEs or approximately 28.91% of the 104 full-time equivalency positions were held by teachers that do not, or held by individuals who do not hold a valid Mississippi teacher's license, or they lack the proper endorsements to teach the subjects they taught. The district also employed 11 long-term substitutes and has reported approximately 15 vacancies for the upcoming school year. Moving on to the federal regulations outlined in Process Standard 17 regarding career and technical education, the school district failed to maintain an accurate inventory of equipment at the Career and Technical Center. Items such as digital cameras, printers, digital recorders, computers, and mini computers were not accounted for during the audit. Other findings included hazards that impose safety concerns in the classroom or the labs. Findings related to IDEA. It's important, before I outline these findings, important to note that the Office of Special Education conducted a monitoring visit in February of 2017. The MDE instructed the district to correct all areas of compliance no later than March the 22nd of 2018. A follow-up visit occurred on March the 21st, and at that time the district had failed to resolve the deficiencies noted in the February 2017 monitoring visit. Findings related, what Child Find is a federally mandated process for identifying, locating, and evaluating children who have a disability. It's an ongoing process, and state board policy requires that the district have in effect policies and procedures to ensure that children birth through 21 years of age who are suspected of having a disability are identified, located, and evaluated. The audit established the district does not have an effective child find process in place. The district failed to have policies and procedures which reflect all required components in place for conducting comprehensive evaluations, thus delaying or denying services to students in need. The district failed to ensure appropriate members of the committee were present at the meeting to consider evaluation data to make eligibility ruling, which thus denies services. The district failed to ensure that students met the minimum eligibility criteria for determining appropriate IDEA eligibility, thus potentially denying or misidentifying the student's disability. As a result of the district's failure to implement federal and state mandates, students were denied appropriate services in a timely manner and resulted in the denial of the students with a disability's right to a free and appropriate public education. So moving into the findings related to a free and appropriate public education, both federal and state law require that the district provide children ages 3 through 20 with disabilities who reside in Mississippi a free and appropriate education through an individualized education program, or IEP. The district is required to ensure that the student's IEP is developed by an appropriate IEP committee, which includes the student's parent. Finally, the IEP has required components that serve to ensure that the IEP is designed to provide educational benefit. The district failed to develop and implement IEPs for students with disability. Therefore, the district failed to ensure that all students with disability receive specially designed instruction that was individualized to meet that particular student's need. The IEPs fail to include and address all required components, such as statements of how the student's disability affects their involvement and process in the general education curriculum, the student's strengths, concerns of the parent, the results of the most recent evaluations, academic development and functional needs of the student, descriptions of how student progress toward meeting annual goals will be measured, the frequency and duration of services, and supports for personnel, thus failing to ensure that the IEP committees could determine if the student has met appropriate goals and received educational benefit. For students 14 years old and older, the district failed to ensure IEPs included appropriate post-secondary goals and transition services in the areas of training, education, employment, and independent living skills, thus denying students a free and appropriate public education because these students may not be prepared and have access to necessary supports after high school. The district failed to ensure that all students with disabilities had an IEP in effect for the 16-17 school year and the 17-18 school year, thus denying these students access to services that assist these students in meeting their goals. And the district failed to keep extended school year documentation such as eligibility determination, the eligibility criteria based upon the determined eligibility, or documented data to support the eligibility decision in the student's IEP, which may have denied students access to services they needed. So non-compliant IEPs were ineffective, incomplete, and inappropriate and denied the students a right to a free and appropriate public education. In the area of child nutrition, the MDE audit documentation from all 4 school cafeterias, which included all sites participating in the child nutrition program. All 4 school cafeterias failed to comply with state and federal requirements for child nutrition. Furthermore, the district improperly borrowed USDA child nutrition funds. Additionally, the district failed to produce documentation such as food production records and failed to produce current and complete school wellness policies in all 6 schools. With regards to the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, the MDE found and has a total amount of $125,073.14 in question costs. The findings include, but are not limited to, the district overspent FY17 Title I budget. They failed to maintain proper controls of equipment, resulting in missing, lost, or stolen items, and they did not follow proper purchasing laws to procure goods and services. Those were the actions that resulted in the $125,000 plus question costs. The district failed to provide policies, procedures, and or evidence of implementation of the following: accounting systems and fiscal controls, period of availability and carryover, audit requirements, internal controls, records and information management, equipment management, personnel procurement, indirect costs, budgeting and activities, maintenance of effort, comparability, equitable service, and general physical requirements. As a result of the district's failure to implement these controls, policies, and or procedures, the district is non-compliant with the implementation of ESSA programs and the Uniform Grant Guidance. Moving into school safety, the district's non-compliant with state board policy and federal state laws that are required to provide safe and orderly schools. The board failed to adopt the district comprehensive school safety plan for the 17-18 school year. The board also failed to adopt individual school safety plans for each of the schools during the 17-18 school year. Based on confidential interviews with security staff, MDE noted that the law enforcement officials presently employed in the district are unsure if they have current law enforcement credentials. Without current law enforcement credentials, the SROs do not have the authority to conduct day-to-day law enforcement functions in the district. MDE made multiple attempts to locate the district's crisis management plan. During interviews, staff members stated that the board did not approve or adopt the comprehensive crisis management plans for the 17-18 school year, and as a result, the district continued to operate under the previous year's plans, both district-wide and within the individual schools. One of the plans presented to the auditors reflected a date of 2013, one reflected a date of 2015, and 4 reflected dates of the 16-17 school year. The MDE could not verify that the district is performing criminal background investigations on all employees. The district does not disseminate the student code of conduct in accordance with Mississippi Code 371153. Staff members told the MDE auditors that the board did not approve the new handbook for the 17-18 school year, and students and parents were told to find last year's handbook or refer to the website which has a 1617 version of the handbook that was not approved by the board. It was noted in confidential interviews that students are suspended from school, and the chief is directed to transport the students home, and in many cases this is without the parents' knowledge. Staff members in the district also told MDE auditors that the preschool classes are housed in the same building as the central office, and these students must walk across the parking lot through traffic with no covered walkways to access the cafeteria. Therefore, the building where the preschool students are located is unsecure. Additional findings include, but are not limited to, the district failed to produce documentation of emergency evacuation drills. They failed to provide emergency packs in all classrooms. Safety plans failed to provide 2 evacuation locations and maps with 2 reunification points. School safety plans failed to identify crisis management team members and have their appropriate contact information. These plans have not been updated since 2013. School safety plans use codes for emergency rather than plain language. Plans fail to address the required crises such as tornadoes, inclement weather, bomb threats, active shooter, etc. All doors cannot be secured for lockdown. Pre-kindergarten students are housed in the central office, as previously mentioned, and that electrical wires are in the reach of children, and restroom and locker rooms contain vulgar or gang graffiti. Transportation system, they have a current inventory of 26 buses. MD inspected 20 of the 26. 6 buses were in the shop and were not able to be inspected. Two of the 20 buses that were inspected were restricted, and they may not be used until all repairs are completed. The MDE noted multiple defects on the buses that were inspected. They failed to produce documentation of quarterly bus inspections. While the motor vehicle reports were on file, the district failed to provide the documentation that the 2 hours of in-service training per semester was conducted, and the district failed to produce documentation that emergency bus evacuation drills are conducted twice a year. Related to facilities, some findings include, but are not limited to, unsecured AC panels, obstructed second means of egress, missing panic hardware, inoperable exit signs, no portable or expired fire extinguishers, no emergency lighting in halls or other areas, playgrounds that didn't meet the Consumer Product Safety Commission guidelines, water fountains lacked the GFI receptacles. There were unprotected lights in the classrooms, unprotected electrical outlets, electrical extension cords were used as permanent sources of electricity. There are some fire alarm systems that were not operational, and just district-wide there were missing signage and maps for visitor parking, campus maps, evacuation, so on and so forth. Moving into appropriate standards of governance, the state law outlines the management responsibilities of the school district superintendent as required by state law and policies. The superintendents failed to implement plans, procedures, programs, and systems to achieve clearly defined desired results. The superintendent fails to provide effective educational leadership in key areas, including management of district personnel, effective implementation of policies, and the development of board and community relationships. Board policies, current board policies do not serve as the basis of operation of the school district. Policies haven't been revised since 2013 and reference outdated editions of the public school accountability standards. District provided auditors with board policy in multiple formats, both print and electronic, that were inconsistent. Board policies, the templates provided by Mississippi School Boards Association have not been customized to meet the district's needs. Based on confidential interviews, discipline is implemented inconsistently, and decisions of school administrators and district staff are often overturned by administration. There were 2 versions of the student handbook provided. The student handbook contains policies and procedures that were inconsistent with state law and state board policy. The board members have failed to effectively perform their duties in a manner prescribed by law. The district failed to provide documentation of the required hours of professional development training. There was 1 board member that lacked an insurance bond. So based on confidential interviews and reports from district personnel, the board is actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the school district. The reports indicate that board members circumvent the district's chain of command and interfere with the administration's ability to implement policy. So in summary, the superintendent and board have failed to implement appropriate standards of governance by failing to ensure true and accurate data is reported to the district, that the district operates on approved board policies, that they comply with financial accountability standards, that graduating seniors meet requirements, that they have programs such as professional development, instructional management, that meet the requirements, ensuring compliance with federal regulations such as CTE, special education, child nutrition, and federal programs, ensuring that school facilities are maintained according to standards, and providing documentation of background checks. Looking at reporting false information under Accreditation Policy 2.1, a comparison of the 17-18 data with employee contracts and salaries revealed that there were numerous errors, omissions, and inconsistencies among the information that's reported in MSIS as well that's on file in the school district. At this time, I'll ask Dr. Gavin to provide an overview of the serious financial concerns.
Felicia Gavin, Chief of Operations for Mississippi Department of Education. On May 8, 2018, the MDE Office of School Financial Services received a call from the School Business Administrator with concerns over raising funds through a tax increase during FY19. She admitted to having some concerns over the cash flow situation. The School Business Administrator stated that the superintendent and the school board were aware of her concerns. The MDE asked that she complete a cash flow estimate. At that time, the School Business Administrator also expressed some concerns over having sufficient cash to cover payroll in the upcoming months. On May 14, 2018, the MDE received a cash flow statement which detailed a negative cash position for July 2018, but it failed to illustrate a full picture of the district's financial situation. The MDE asked for copies of the most recent audit. We obtained FY 2014 from the Office of the State Auditor's website and obtained a draft copy of the FY 15 audit from the School Business Administrator. The FY 15 audit has been filed with OSA, but at that time it was not final. Based on what the MDE saw in the cash flow statement, the MDE suggested that the district hire a financial consultant to verify the cash flow situation. The MDE notified the district that MDE would need a letter from the superintendent formally requesting financial assistance for the district and provided the district with the applicable law referencing financial assistance. The MDE also provided the name of a consultant that would be available for a short-term contract. Then on June 12th, the MDE received a letter from the superintendent requesting financial assistance, which is attached in your report, and the MDE confirmed that a financial consultant had been hired. The MDE School Financial Services staff spoke with the financial consultant privately, and the consultant expressed concerns that failure of the school board to act on any proposed budget reductions would increase the deficit cash flow position. The consultant informed the MDE that she had a meeting scheduled with the superintendent and the school board on July 2nd to present recommendations on budget reductions and financial concerns. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Wright directed the MDE to conduct an investigative audit of the district. Then on June 28th, the MDE spoke with the school business administrator about making payroll for June. She indicated a transfer was made from the 16th section interest fund into the district maintenance fund in the amount of $500,000. At that time, the current cash balance in the district was then reported at $840,000. The school business administrator was confident that payroll for June would be covered. The MDE School Financial Services staff met briefly with the school business administrator and the financial advisor and received a copy of the FY 2015 audit and an email verification that the Office of the State Auditor had completed the audit. The advisor was working with the school business administrator to discover any additional budget reductions or cost savings that might be realized in the FY 2019 budget. At the July board meeting, the board adopted the FY 2019 budget. However, the adopted budget does not include enough reductions to eliminate the deficit cash flow position for FY 2019. In addition, the district failed to timely submit their fiscal year report for 2015, 16, and 17. Based on the most recent 2015 report from the Office of the State Auditor, the district is non-compliant with process standards 4, 4.2, 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, and 4.7. The most recent audit report from the Office of the State Auditor found the following. The district had deficit fund balances in 3 funds and are in violation of the Mississippi Codes Section 376119. The district received a qualified opinion on the most recent financial audit. The district cannot verify the local school board has received, reviewed, and discussed the required financial reports due to the minutes of the boards not being provided. The district filed year-end financial statements with the State Board of Education on November 9, 2015, although these should have been submitted on October 15th of 2015. Additionally, numerous changes were made to the year-end financial statements after the November date to complete the financial statements for the annual audit, and the district did not maintain a 7% fund balance. The district is non-compliant also with Process Standards 5 and 5.1. The most recent report from the Office of the State Auditor found that the district has inadequate controls concerning budgeting, which resulted in non-compliance with Mississippi Code Sections 3761.9 and 3761.21, subsection 1. Even with the district's recommended and approved budget cuts, financial projections show that the district will not be able to meet obligations beginning July 2018. The district's maintenance fund cash flow is projected negative throughout FY 2019 without any assistance from the state. Through various interviews with staff, there is concern over frivolous spending such as for cell phones, food purchases, gift cards, and travel. Intense planning must take place to develop a 2018-19 district budget that will utilize the district's financial resources and any funds from the school district emergency assistance fund, which may be made available if the governor declares a state of emergency in such a manner that ensures student achievement as the top priority.
Displayed on the screen is a pattern of poor academic performance. That was contained in your binders provided to you. However, for 3 of the 5 years, 2013 through 2017, the district had a performance classification of F and has met the State Board of Education's definition of failing school district for 2 consecutive years. For the last 2 years, 2016 and 2017, more than 50% of the schools within the district has had a performance classification of an F. Based on the 2017 accountability results, Knoxville County School District performed in the bottom 15% in reading proficiency, the bottom 10% in math proficiency, and the bottom 5% in science and U.S. history. In 2017, no student scored proficient on the Algebra 1 assessment. The district also has the lowest performing schools in math and reading proficiency statewide. 4 of the 5 schools in the district performed in the lowest 25% in reading and math proficiency. In addition to a failing district in 2017, the Knoxville County School District ranked number 140 of 143 districts. In summary, if you'll go back to the slide, you'll see the summary of noncompliance, a comparison of the 7 most egregious areas, 7 of the 8 most egregious areas that we previously outlined, and you'll see the overlap on the screen from 2013 through 2017. But in summary, based on 3717-612B, the commission may determine if extreme emergency exists in a school district that jeopardizes safety, security, or educational interest of the student enrolled in the district, and that such an emergency is related to serious violations of federal and state law and accreditation standards, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a continued pattern of poor academic performance. And 2, that it meets the State Board of Education's definition of a failing district for 2 consecutive years, or that more than 50% of the schools within the district are designated as an F in any one year. And it's important for the commission to note that in the case of the Knoxville County School District, all 3 conditions of the law are met. Ask that you review the materials that have been provided for you, and when appropriate, we'll address any questions that you might have related to the violations or areas of noncompliance that we have provided for you.
Thank you very much. All right, while we are switching gears here, did I have anybody on the phone join us while they were presenting?
Yes, Eddie Prater, I called in.
Thank you, Mr. Prather. We will note that. All right, now we will hear from representatives from the district. I would also like to remind everyone present, if you would, please silence your phones and electronic devices. Members of the district, just for the benefit of those on the phone, if you would, again, would identify yourself as you speak. And we are ready when you are.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing us to come and present to you today. Present with me is Steve from the district. Right here, legal attorney, Honorable Benny Jones, Mr. Albert Williams, who's the president, Ms. Pam Narden, student financial officer, and Mr. Reverend Earl Stewart, school board member. And yours truly, Roger Liddell, superintendent. Thank you for allowing us to come today. To begin with, basically, our request today is very simple. We are asking the School Commission on Accreditation to allow us time to clear up the violation of this larger school. And around the time, give MPE the permission to allow us to borrow the equipment to allow us to move forward. If we can get those two things done, we can certainly show you that we are not in the state of emergency. At this time, I'd like to sort of bring you up to our district is composed of about 15 of us. We are located in the northeast portion of Mississippi. We serve a community of about 12,000 residents, and fortunate to have some of the best students in the state of Mississippi. Our vision for our district is that we will be one of the state's top performing districts, given time. And how do you become one of the state's top? By graduating all of its students, regardless of their economic situation, regardless of where they come from. It's our hope that if we graduate 100% of our students, they will be college ready or career ready at that time. Our mission is that we want to provide a system where all students in our district have some kind of academic success.
Hey, Mr. Liddell, could you please hold the mic up and speak into it?
Oh, yes,
We're
ma'am.
having a hard time hearing.
All right. Might move it right here. Okay. So those are our missions and our vision and mission of our district. Back when I took the helm of the Knoxville County School District as superintendent in 2016, I knew that we were going to be faced with challenges. And we accept the MDE's report today on all the violations, and we take full responsibility for those violations. However, it is to be noted that some of those violations have been addressed already. On yesterday, we delivered to the State Department 2 binders of information that addressed a whole lot of those standards. Today's presentation will cover 3 important areas: academic performance, district safety concerns, and our financial state. Back in January of 2017, we were proposed to be included into an achievement district. And at that time, there had not been a superintendent of that district hired. We went back to our district and implemented a plan that we would not be a F for the new school year that would move us forward. It's important to note that last year we missed a D by only 11 points. There was a lot of growth in our district that may not be considered. In 2016, the cut score of 464. We were only 11 points away from the cut score 450. Since I've been superintendent, we increased our points from 407 to 453. That was an increase of 11.3 over just 1 year. So there have been improvements in our district in terms of our academics since that time. This is an original slide from MDE's report. It shows our district academic performance over the last 5 years. I want to point out that in 2016, our graduation rate was 72%. In 2017, our graduation rate 83.1%. It's noted that that particular year, we even outperformed the state with its graduation rate. In the areas of proficiency, 2016, 17.8, in the ELA, 17.9. Progress, not a whole lot of progress, but progress. In math, 14.5, 16, 15.3, and 17. Growth overall, 38.1 ELA, 47.2. Significant growth. Growth low 25, 16, 15, 51.5, 17, 54.8. So there have been some progress in our district over the years, over between the 16 and 17 school year. This slide shows the proficient and above for one of our elementary schools, Earl Nash Elementary. In 2014 to 2017, you can see the performance dropping. But from 14 to 15, there was a large dip. We account that too. During that in 2014, the MCT was being used. 2015, the PARC assessment was being used. Certainly, this happened across the whole state, that all students' performance level dipped because of a change in the assessment. In 2016 is the first year that MAP was being incorporated. So MAP have been the consistent assessment platforms since that time. But Earl Nash shows that since 2016, in ELA 21.7, slightly dropped in 2017 to 21.2, and it's projected at the for 18 up to 29.2 performance. Math 15.4, 16, 18.5, 17, 18.7, showing some growth. Liddell Elementary, proficient and above, and 15, 14.6, ELA 17, 20.9, and 18 we're projecting a drop 12.4. But in math, 15.8, 16, 10.5, 17, and an increase in math 17.6 projected for 18. Virgil Jones Elementary School in 2016 ELA 13.9, 2017 increase 16.4, 2018 projected 20.2. Math 16.7, 16.4, 17.6. Not a whole lot of improvement, but some improvement since the math testing. Beaver Middle School also shows some improvement. And ELA, 2016, 15.5, 17, 13.9, and 18 projected 15.4. Math, 13.9, 2016, 12.9, 17, and 19.9 projected for 18. Knoxville County High School in 2016, we're looking at that's Algebra 1, 2017, 16.3, 2018, 10.5, a dip in improvement there. ELA, proficient and above, 26.1, 16, 24.5, and 28.2 projected in 18. And it's also important to note that our accountability rating for our high school last year in 17 was a C. For the district, as you can see from the MCT testing to the PARC assessment to the MAP assessment, there had been some decrease in performance. But since 2016, there has been a steady path of improvement across the district, and we are looking even for improvement projected in 18. And certainly we are hoping that these improvements was enough to get us from a rating of an F to a D. Looking at this year's accountability information that we've received already, this is Earl National Elementary School, last year designated as a F, 203 points. We're looking at an increase of 71 points for the new year. In the areas of accountability, we only had one area that's math proficiency that was a decrease. Reading proficiency up 11 points, math growth up 4 points, reading growth up 21, math low growth up 10, reading low growth up 16. And this school will probably be one of the schools in the state that had that much of an increase. Beverly Elementary School, last year our total points was 222. It's projected this year will be 265, an increase of 43 points. And it's important to note that D is 268. We will probably miss about 2 or 3 points, that particular school. In all the areas of accountability, We had an increase in math, decrease in reading, slight decrease. A great increase in math growth, slight decrease in reading growth, and math growth, so increase in reading low growth, and an increase in science proficiency. Roger Jones Elementary School, 17 total points was 220, projected to have a total point of 256 for 18, an increase of 35 points. Again, this particular school, 268 is the cutoff, missing the D by 14 points. And the categories: math proficiency down, reading proficiency up, math growth down slightly, reading growth up, same low growth, reading low growth up, and science proficiency slightly down. We certainly would like for the commission to remember during your deliberations that in our district there is learning occurring. We're serving boys and girls just like any other boys and girls across the state who deserve a great education, and we're trying our very best to do that. But it takes time. Since I've taken the helm of the district in 2016, we've seen increases, and we're continuing to see a projection of improvement across the district. District safety concerns. When about 2 weeks, well, not 2 weeks, but around June 8th, I received a phone call, not a phone call, but a text, not a text, but an email. We received an email in our district asking the superintendent if we needed some financial assistance. If we did need that assistance, the State Department, MDE, would certainly be willing to talk with us and to help us. And we were to have that reply. We received that email around 12 o'clock on Friday, and we were to have it back to them by 4 o'clock that evening, a letter, if we was wanting that. Our attorney talked to the office of, what office was that? Office of School Financial Services, and we sent that letter on that Monday, which was the 11th, 12th, Tuesday, which was the 12th. After that, after that was on the 12th of June. On the 25th of June, that's when the MDE team came into our district for the full accreditation audit. We want the commission to realize that when the MDE came, they came during the summer, a week or so before the 4th of July. Most of our staff was on vacation. Some staff was scattered, and it was not a normal situation. In this particular standard 30, MDE cited us for having all 6 schools unclean and unsanitary, and that we failed to provide a safe and secure environment. Most of our schools were closed because it's summertime, and our custodians working together as a team was doing one building at a time. So we had to carry MD around to the different campuses in order to get into the building. There was no students present at this time. But during the summertime, it's not expected that you're to constantly clean buildings, restrooms, what have you, every day if it's not being occupied. They're working as a crew. But I wanted to point that out, that's what happened here. But because you might not have ever been to Knoxville County, I want to give you a glimpse of these buildings and the schools that we serve. This is the Knoxville County Career and Technical Center. Inside, here's a picture of the hallway, girls' bathroom, boys' bathroom, and there are other bathrooms. But I just want you to get a glimpse of what Knoxville County looks like. Elementary school. Hallway, boys' restroom, girls' restroom, and there are others. Dale Middle School. Another thing to note is that we have one new high school that was built back in 2000, I believe. And all of our other schools are at least 70 to 80 years old. And these are not new facilities. We are looking at some plans where we're going to ask the citizens to allow us to rebuild to build a school campus where we can put all of these other schools under one roof. Boys' bathroom, girls' bathroom, hallway, Dale Middle School. This is a 70 or 80-year-old building, but we are maintaining the building as best we can. Knoxville County High School, this is our newest school, built in 2000. Girls' bathroom, boys' bathroom, and the hallway. Virgil Jones Elementary School, also an older school, 70 or 80 years old. Girls' bathroom, boys' bathroom, hallway. Earl Nash Elementary School, another one of our older schools. Girls' bathroom, boys' bathroom, hallway. With that information, I certainly hope that I've painted a picture of increasing academic performance and a sense of safe and secure campuses that we have to the commission. And at this time, I would like for our business manager, Ms. Pam Norris, to come forward and give our financial statement.
I'm Pam Norris, and I am the financial officer for Knoxville County School District, and I will be talking about the financial state of the district. As Dr. Gavin did state, we did send in a cash flow analysis we initially sent in May and June, and then I sent in the complete year for the 2018-19 school year. And as Dr. Gavin did state, we had initially thought in July that we would have a negative cash balance, but if you will move the slide. It's kind of like when you put on a coat and you find $20 in your pocket. It looks better it feels good when you find it. So we will have a projected cash balance at the end of July after we have paid for after we have had payroll and just miscellaneous expenses that might come through. We will have a positive cash balance. Now, that is because our payables were down in June and July, which is a good thing. And also we collected more ad valorem taxes in June and July than we had initially projected. So that is a good thing that we will have a positive cash balance at the end, or we're projecting a positive cash balance at the end of July. So we will have $239,000 to carry us over to the beginning of August. I know it's not a lot, but it is a positive balance. All right, so now I'm going to address the standards 4 and 5 that we were in violation of. You'll move the slide. The audits, I know that's a major concern of the Office of Accreditation. And when I was hired in December of 2016, so I've been with the school district a little over a year and a half. So when I was hired, one of the main things that the school board said is we want to get our audits up to date. And so when I was hired, they had already contracted with a firm back in May to do the 16 and 17 audit. And so when they had contracted, I think the firm had some turnover and different things, but I contacted the firm and they sent people to do field work in December of 2016. Now this was for the 14-15 audit. So they began field work for the 14-15 audit in December of 2016. And the complete audit, as Dr. Gavin said, was not completed until June of 18. So it took them a little over a year and a half. And like I said, the firm had some staff turnover, and we had actually contracted with them for 2 years. And so they allowed us to get out of the contract for 2 years, and we contracted with another firm, Fortenberry and Ballard, for the next 3 years. So we have them for the next 3 years. We have field work that has been completed for the FY16. They've just completed that. They're supposed to start the FY17 field work on July 30th. And then hopefully we can start the FY18 field work by January of 19 and be in compliance with Standard 4 by March 31st, 2019. That is my hopes. I'm going to work very hard to do that. I'm going to stay on them really hard, but I think that with them that we can get that completed. Another issue that we had was in Standard 4 was our less than zero fund balance. So if you'll move the slide. So in FY14, our audit showed a negative fund balance of $137,265. Like I said, I started in December of 16, and the books did not reflect that. The audit was complete. They had gotten that audit actually in October of 2015. But I kind of knew something was not right because I know that your cash balance and your fund balance are supposed to be about the same. But it was always like we were kind of having some cash flow issues. So I kind of knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But I was under the impression that the entries from the FY14 audit, the adjusting entries, had been made. And so in talking to the board and figuring this out, the auditing firm that did the FY14 audit did not do an exit interview with the board to inform them of the negative fund balance. So in working with our auditor that was doing the FY15 audit, the one that took the year and a half to complete, he came to the December 2017 board meeting. He had already informed me that we had a negative fund balance, and I said, that was my light. I said, oh, well, this makes more sense now. So I said, you've got to come to the board and explain to them what's going on. So he came in December of 2017, and he said, look, y'all have a negative fund balance. He also explained other findings that they had found in the audit, and we are working hard to correct those. I've corrected those findings beginning in the school year that we've just completed. So I'm correcting things as I'm finding out they're wrong. So that's a good thing. But since the board learned about the negative fund balance, we have cut spending. They've said, we've got to watch spending. We've got to watch it very closely. So from January through June of 2018, compared to June of 2017, over $288,000 less money was spent. So they're aware, and they're trying to get back to this positive fund balance. And also to get back to the 7% of operating revenues, we've made over $1.1 million in cuts from the current year budget. So we're working hard to get back to that positive fund balance. Another thing that was noted in Standard 4, or it might have been Standard 5, was our FETS files. They were submitted late in 2015. They were on time in 2016, and they were on time in 2017. So that was I think probably the only time it was late was in 2015. And I can assure you that I will always submit the FETS file on time, because they tell us, the main 2 dates for our business manager is August 15th and October 15th. So I'm working really hard with the superintendent and the board and other staff members that we have. We're all working hard to get the district back on track.
Again, I want to thank this commission for allowing the Knox Creek County School District to come before you and to present our case. I want to echo what our superintendent said and thanking each of you, and to submit a request on behalf of the Knox Creek County School Board asking this commission to give us adequate time to address these findings. We feel confident that the documents that are already in the office here will clear up many of those findings. And we feel that if you give us some time, we will aggressively go back to the district and submit and clear up those findings in a timely manner. Secondly, I want to ask this board and MDA to think of partnering with the Knox Creek County School District, giving us availability to all of your resources, staff development, grant proposal, and even in finance. We want to partnership that we will tailor our our policies that relate to finance that will allow some partnering, some oversight, so that we can stay focused on meeting our goal, and that is to be financially sound. I can assure you, on behalf of the Knox Creek County School, that we will aggressively meet the challenge and eliminate these findings that have been presented to us. As we go forward, we want to go back. It's been gut-wrenching. It's been for all of us. But we want to start off in the board to lay some ground marks to first deal with our professional governance standards, code of conduct. We want to deal with strategic planning. Dr. Henderson with the Mississippi School Board has already offered her help to come in and go and revisit that plan and go through that process. We want to realign our resources, our human and financial, to bring in a data coach. We have a young man in our district, Mr. Ballaco, who just worked for the Mississippi State Department, has a lot of skills in analyzing data. So we want to realign our resources so that we have a district-wide person where the board, as it monitors results, have separate eyes on that information. Again, we want to thank you all, and our team has worked hard, and we want to let you know that we will be happy, glad to go back and roll up our sleeves and make this happen. With your help, with the MDA's support, we can make it happen. Thank you on behalf of the Knox Creek County School District.
The last thing that I would like to do is pass out brochures to each commission member.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Benny Jones. I'm the General Counsel for Knoxville County School District. And I would like, first of all, to point out to the accreditation.
Sorry, just. We are going to save the attorney's comments for the closing 10 minutes. My apologies on that.
No problem.
So
Thank you,
if
ma'am.
there's nothing else from the district, at this time, I'm going to allow the commission to take a 10-minute break. 37, so. Okay, at this time, we will allow the commission members to ask questions of either party. Again, please just identify yourself since we have folks on the phone.
Kelly Barfield. And the last comment that was made about partnering and getting some skills development, some improved government, some improvements to strategic planning, with such an extensive list of violations, I'm wondering if there are particular high priority areas that you feel like would allow you to make the most improvement as quickly as possible. Have you given the thought to what some of those specific partnership needs might be?
Specifically, I was talking about in professional development and assistance from the Department of Finance, working with our finance department to give assurance to the state board and to the commission that we are going to follow the plan of action that we have in place, and that we are going to be good stewards from this point on of all of the resources. And so we want that partnership, whereas at every interval we want to get them, have them involved. One particular thing I had in mind is that we want to, through our governance and through our policy, we want to, in addition to the statutory reporting requirements that our finance department need to do, we want to put some other stopgaps that will trigger as those reports come. When she see a finance area that's say 40% in September, it ought to be 25%. That will trigger our finance department doing a thorough review, making some recommendations, signing them all, having the superintendent sign off, and also submitting that information to the State Department of Finance, let them review it and sign off. So we all will be brought along together, and we want to put those assurances in there. So I want a working relationship, a partnership relationship with the State Department, with the Department of Finance. So there won't be no ambiguity, and that everything will be transparent and open.
This is Sarah Foster. One of my main concerns in reading the report were a lot of the educational issues, the IEP deficiencies, the Carnegie units not being kept up, the student files, their records with their Carnegie units not listed, their immunization records, their graduation information. Is there a plan for new training for counselors, or, it was just a lot of misinformation and lack of information in the student files, which is really a disservice to the students.
Yes, ma'am. To partially address that particular standard, our counselors was on vacation and were not available to provide all of the documentation that the State Department needed. And we have submitted that to the State Department on yesterday, as they asked me to. I asked the question on Friday when we did our exit. What could we do if we could provide information that they needed that they couldn't get to, and they indicated that I could bring it on yesterday, and we got it to them on yesterday. So that particular standard has been certainly satisfied.
Just for clarification, so when she talked about graduation requirements and everything, so on the high school transcripts, that summary of Carnegie units was completed, was already done prior to graduation, which is required. So that was done. Is that what we're saying?
On the ones that they looked at, I'm not sure which one they had. The 12th grade counselor was on vacation.
But that's supposed to be done prior to graduation. They said 117 of those 117s were not, those summary of Carnegie units were not fulfilled, which should have been done ninth grade, after the end of the ninth grade, after the end of the 10th grade, after the end of the 11th grade, and after the end of their senior year, prior to the principal signing off that they met those requirements.
Yes, sir.
So from the information that I received and read, that was not true. Or you're disputing, you saying it is true, but they weren't able to see it because your counselor was out.
I wasn't present at the high school when they went over, and the main counselor was not there. So the 9th and 10th grade counselor had to find what she could. I'm not sure what the.
So I can, because that's the way it read to me. Knowing that was a huge concern when I read this, was to looking at the graduation requirements not being met, and the summaries not being totaled to keep a record of it for the last 4 years, but graduation has happened.
Yes, sir. But the documentation that we presented yesterday shows that all that was in place. But the counselor herself was not in place.
All right, so all transcripts have been updated since that. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
But I'll have to ask the department then, because the information that I have.
In reference to the, I'm Valencia Martin. In reference to the cleanliness, and you show the bathrooms of the different schools. Some schools have summer enrichment programs for the students.
Yes, sir.
Our area
Yes, ma'am.
had summer enrichment up until June 29, and so students were in school, and they had the feeding programs, and sometimes children went to the restroom. Did Noxubee County have summer enrichment programs that were going on during that time and finishing up at the end of the season? And that was why some of the restrooms were, and it was like right before vacation time. Was that why some of them were not kept in an orderly and clean fashion?
In our district, we closed all buildings except the high school, the new high school. The other buildings were closed for summer cleaning. But at the high schools where we had our summer feeding program and all of our extended year programs at the high school.
So the elementary schools don't have anything for the summer, like the enrichment programs at their particular school?
No, ma'am. Everything was housed at the high school.
Elementary
even the elementary school. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry I didn't identify myself. I'm Roy Gill. I have a question. Mr. President, how long have you been on the school board? How long have you been school board president?
I've been on the school board for 14 years. And this has been president since January of 2017. On our team, Reverend Stewart, he's the long time president. I think he's been president of 20-some plus years. Is that correct?
From the information that we received, the last financial audit that y'all had complete was 2014. Is that correct? Okay. October of that year. Okay. In that, it's each year we're supposed to adopt the audit that is completed. I'm really concerned with the financial situation as of, you have a payroll of, and we did not get the slides that y'all showed, so I'm trying to go off of memory, $900 and something thousand on for payroll, if my memory serves me correct. And you have a fund balance of $239,000 cash balance. Okay. What plan is it to meet July payroll?
That's meeting July payroll.
Oh, that is, okay, that is meeting.
Yes, sir. Right at July 16th, we had a cash balance of $288,000. So we have our inflows and then our outflows that includes the July payroll. And so we have an ending projected cash balance of $239,000. And that's meeting the July payroll.
Are indirect costs from food service, or
That's all of the indirect.
all of the indirect costs from federal programs, food services, and all that was 109. Okay, reimbursement of federal expenses. What I'm concerned with, if we've got that much of a just for payroll, now that's not lights, utilities, and all the other expenses a district has. If we've had negative balances and we haven't had an audit since 2000 as board members, have y'all not been made abreast of this urgency for the last 3 or 4 years?
We knew that there were a problem with the firm, which was Walking Water and Stafford, in fulfilling those responsibilities. There also should be some communication from our former superintendent and finance director to the Department of Audit, alerting them that we had a problem and what can we do to get out of this contract. So yes, we knew that we have been working trying to get that audit, and again, they excused where we didn't have the personnel. They had only one person, and then it took almost 2 years for that audit to be completed. Yes, we were aware that that audit was hanging out there. We made some effort to try to figure out how we could get it completed. And we did communicate back and forward to Department of Finance, Department of Audit, and to get some guidance in this particular area. But it took that long, almost 2 years, even though we had contracted for them back in 2016.
So that as a school district for 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, we're preparing a budget, not knowing whether we're going in the hole for these last 4 years, therefore not planning on your staff and all, because you're asking us to give you more time. That's what I heard, is for y'all, for this commission to look at the history and to provide additional time to correct these measures. Is that what we're asking?
And just repeating what I said, that this board only found out about this issue with finance as it relates to this audit in December of 2017.
So the board doesn't approve the audit every year?
No, we didn't approve that one. So if we had that information, we would have started the process back in 2016 or further in terms of cutting back on expenses, streamlining those expenses. So we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't be asking for help, because we would have done what was necessary to stay within that budget to also maintain a 7%. So that lack of knowledge, and I hate to keep it, is what got us to this point. And we have been doing everything that we know to maintain the integrity of the district financially. At the same time, we've been cutting back expenses. And we did all we know to do is cut back on expenses and do what's necessary to make payroll and hire teachers to fill the classroom. So that's what we've been diligent working in the last month, every month. And we got a capable finance director that we feel confident that knows what she's doing and that's going to keep us on track and get us to that desired outcome, and that is to be financially stable.
And Mr. Gill, the other request that we have of the commission is to allow us more time along with allowing MDE to support us in the loan that we asked for. Initially, when MDE contacted us, they contacted us under the influence of wanting to help us, of contacting us. They saw that our audit from 14-15 was not good, and they reached out to us with hands of wanting to help. And we responded and said, yes, we want to help. And we really do need the help. We was transparent. It's not that we're trying to hide anything. We understand that we have financial challenges. They stem back from 2013. And when I came on board, one of the first things that we got approved was to move forward on the 2014-15 audit that had not been done. And we've been moving forward on that since I became superintendent.
In 2016. That is okay, and I just guess that's that's the issue that I'm seeing is that, all right, our finances are in such a turmoil that we have not to be able to even meet payroll and have no idea where we're going to go. And if we have a payroll of that much, okay, what have we done over the last 2.5 years that you've been there, and not knowing what your finances are, a true picture of it? You know, I mean, that's an issue that we have to look at when you're requesting additional time to make this happen.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a point here? In the 2017-2018 school year, when we went through the budgeting process, and Norris can speak a little bit more on this, we had a projection of almost $500,000 district maintenance budget. I mean, fund equity to move forward into this year. We were projecting almost $900,000 fund equity in 16 sections to be in place June 30th, 2018. So put a budget together thinking that those funds were there but available. But we get into December of 2017 and find out, because of that last audit and the adjustments that had to be made, then that was not the case. So then we started cutting back, cutting expenses. And I'll let Ms. Norris.
So have we increased any of the millage? What's your local mills? Okay.
Right now, it's 48.66, and yes, sir, we're requesting the funds that should amount to the maximum 55 mills.
But that's got to have a referendum and a vote. If you go over 7%.
It's not over 7%. I think it was 5.3%.
Okay, then you got, there's certain things that you have to do up to 4%. That you can raise it without that. I don't want to get, but you just need to make sure that if you go over that threshold, that you're doing it legally, because there are steps that you have to. And that's one of the things you need to make sure. Okay, so this is the first time we've asked for an increase in our budget, and since you've been there since.
Yes, sir.
Village was actually around 55 mills. I think it was back in 2014, 15, and then there was a reevaluation, and the millage went down to they
The
requested.
assessed value.
Right.
Correct.
So the funds requested remained about the same,
But the millage went down because the assessed value went up.
Right.
Fraser, Mr. Lemmer, tell me the time, that's the portion of good time.
Go right ahead, Mr. Fraser.
Just Mr. Liddell, this is your form that you want to answer there. It was just basic operation. I saw from the material that you had some students that participated in graduation exercise or graduated not passed all the state assessment. First of all, is that you agree with that? You know, so what procedure you put in place to ensure that this not going to happen again?
No, sir, I don't agree with that. And the documentation we delivered to the State Department on yesterday will verify that.
Okay. And along the same line, we saw some things about handbook, or hear some things from Dr. Dennison about student handbooks not being updated. What process do you have in place, and who was responsible for updating your handbook to get board approval on your basis?
The superintendent, we sent out a district handbook that includes all the schools in one. And we are slated to get the new handbook approved at our next board meeting in July, in this month. And it's the superintendent and principal's responsibility.
Well, let's come back with that and explain a little bit more about those graduation students. I saw that a couple times. So, okay. Mr. Liddell, this is Brian Harvey, superintendent with the Oxford School District.
Yes, sir.
Looking through the data here, specifically section 2.1, accreditation policy 2.1, data recording and the information about budget. Is the information true that the district reported 269 employees on the INSIS detailed personnel report, but only 208 contracts could be reviewed? 7 employees not in INSIS, 25 employees have salaries and contracts that don't match the salaries that reported in INSIS. Is that information correct?
I would think that it's correct as at the time when MDE was came in this summer, but given time, we should be able to provide that information if we hadn't already done it.
Are those? Have you had any change in personnel in those positions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have.
Have
For the new year.
received the MDE training that goes along with that?
Without looking at the particular position, I can't say. I really can't. It may not be a position that requires that training that you're speaking of.
If they're inputting information in MSIS,
Oh, you mean
there's
MSIS
certainly
personnel?
training that's required.
Of course. Oh, no, it have not been any change. No, sir. I apologize. No, sir. No change in any of the employees who's putting that information in.
How do you respond to on the next page where what MDE reported, staff members reported to MDE that they've been directed to falsify records by the superintendent and other district leadership?
I certainly respond negatively to that. That is inaccurate, untrue. I have no idea who would say that.
Do y'all have a set salary scale for all employees where the board approves a salary scale?
Yes, sir. And Ms. Norris can speak to that.
In April of 2017, the board adopted a new pay scale for across the district for non-certified employees, and salaries were figured based on the on those scales. And then in July, or maybe it was late June of 17, the board voted to not give all of the raises. They gave half of those raises. So basically the non-certified staff were taken off of those scales, and new scales were never adopted. And that's probably where the discrepancy comes in there.
Thank you.
So were there not scales prior to that time?
There were scales, and the board, that was right after I had started, and the board instructed me to kind of do a comparison of school districts around our area. So I did a comparison of 5 school districts that were the same size as us, and we kind of matched our scales to them.
Mike Miller. Mr. Liddell, were you involved with the school board before you became superintendent in any capacity? Were you a member of the school board?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir.
Been on the school board for 14 years. Mr. Stewart? 30. How long there's 3 other members, right? There's 5 members?
Yes, sir.
How long have the other 3 been on the school board? Do you know? Guesstimation? And it's a 4 or 5 year term? 6?
You could speak into the microphone, please.
Okay, Ms. Atkin, going into her second term, her and I had just won re-election. And Ms. Chandler and Mr. Coleman, I think, was up for re-election, I believe, this year, if I'm not correct. So she have been there 6 years.
Got 30, 14, 12, 8, 6.
I think somewhere around there.
The audit has got me questioning. You have to do these audits every year within 9 months of the end of the school year. And it should be, I'm from the outside. I'm not an educator. I'm not on the school board. Have never been. But isn't there you know it's coming. All of you do. For as long as y'all been there. So you know you have to present one each year. Right? Correct? So how could we go 2 and 3 years without submitting one?
Well, I think as he said that we was doing one. Well, I think we as he said that we had audit done, and my thing is that I spoke to Dr. Walter and I spoke to Jim Keeper, I think it is, as they were saying that with the audit that we had done, this board was under the impression that the money that we had money to the good, as the chairman has already stated.
I'm not talking about as far as monetary, how much money you had in there. I'm saying the process of submitting an audit every year. You know it's coming. You know you have to have it done within 9 months of the end of the school year. So I don't understand how, with the school board with so many years,
Well, I think
that gets skipped for.
I think what kind of offset that and what that started, I think it was that we had an election year, and I think that we had a former superintendent going out, we had another one coming in, and then another thing was, I think it was the probably during that time we had a big turnover. Our former superintendent, he retired. Our board attorney retired. Our food service director retired. Our finance director retired. Transportation director retired. And so we had a big
turnover that year, and I think that's kind of derailed us a little bit. And then we hired a finance director. I think she stayed about a year or so, and had a turnover again, and so we hadn't had one, I guess, since Menard came that actually stayed for more than a year, 2 years. I think she came and I think that's when a lot of the stuff started coming to fruition. And as we said, that I'm speaking for me. I was under the impression, like I say, without the turnover thing of the election, which I think kind of got everything to real, and with the all of the key positions that we had, and it kind of got, I guess, kind of pushed to the side. And I think that's really what started the whole thing. And then after we hired some auditors, then they came in and we assumed that, well, they're going to go ahead on and get the thing done. But they didn't get it done in the time, which kept delaying, which, as we said, it took them a year and a half to get it done. And as the former chair said, the current chair said, we was talking to our attorney and talking to the State Department. What can we do to get these guys to speed? Because we knew that it was urgent that we get those audit done. And so, as he said, you can see the documentation that we was trying to do that. And my thing is that I think that those are some of the reasons that kind of got us derailed. And like I said, we're not trying to make any excuse or anything, but I think that that election year and all of those key people that we had in position retired.
This only goes back, I think, 5 years. When's the last time the school district was rated a C or above? Any of y'all know?
I think if you could probably pull the record and you can go back. I think during the election year when everything started to decline, and I'm not quite sure when that was, but I know prior to that, and you can pull the record at the State Department. Prior to that, our school district, I think I scored every school district in that Golden Triangle area except Caledonia. So I think the election kind of did a little something to the community, kind of.
No, I'm just talking about the yearly performance. The school district, the last 5 years has been an F, a D, a F, and an F. When has your school district been rated a C or higher? 8 years. Y'all know when the last time y'all got a C or B?
We did get a C, 17 in our high school, but the district.
The district.
Well, I've only been there since 16, but I'm thinking, Ms. Williams, you have an idea?
Yes, we have the information. We go back to 2013 is what he's referencing.
Yeah, we're going back. I'm saying.
Right. In 2017, it was an F. 2016 was an F. 2015 was a D. 2014 was a D. 2013 was an F. So in the last 5 years, 3 years of an F, 2 years of a D. And I think the election was in August or November of 2015, and you took office in January of 16. Okay. But prior to those 5 years, is I think
that's what I'm asking.
What Mr. Miller is asking.
Last time,
school
year that the district has been rated.
I don't know. That might have been past those that you have there, and but as I said, that we had some schools that I think was like A. And we end up consolidating them closer, and they have to close some down. And so it was back past that. But like I said, I'm really not quite sure but I know we have had some schools that an A school district and stuff of that nature. And but like I said, I'm not exactly sure unless we go back and have our finance director here to pull the record and look and see. So I don't want to give you any incorrect information.
May I ask a question, if you don't mind, about student safety? Yeah, Kelly Barker, I'm just curious, on the topic of student safety with the list of non-compliance buses, classrooms, and so forth, since the school is out of session, what sort of timeline, timetable, project plan has been put in place to address the immediate safety concerns before the students come back in the fall?
Some of those safety concerns have been addressed in the document we provided yesterday. So some of those standards will be cleared.
Timeframe for the remaining open items do you have in place?
Yeah, if you allow me, Mr. Superintendent. What we normally do is we have a meeting set, and we did a site visit before our school opened. And we did a site visit last year and gave it to the superintendent on all of the safety concerns that we seen that need to be addressed before the children come back. And so we have another one set up to have a meeting and look at that list and look at go and do another safety thing to see what have been doing and see what all of them have been cleared up. And so we do have
that one's scheduled for when?
Right. Do you remember?
It was
right before the school opened.
It was scheduled for today, but our maintenance crew has been working on that particular list and over halfway done. So we've gotten a lot of things done across the summer while the schools are unoccupied. August 1st for the teachers and August 6th for the kids.
And I'd just like to share this, and I guess I do know for a fact, and I'm not guessing at this, I know this to be a fact. I know at given time, I know that our school board can rise to the occasion. I know that our school can rise to the occasion. They have done it in the past, and I know they can do it again. And I think that we was caught, I guess, at a point where we was trying to clean up, trying to get ready for the children. You know, make sure that the school and things are in good condition for them to come back. You know, painting the schools and all this and that. Because I've been to school myself, and I know how it is when you going out of school and coming back to the same thing. And so I think during that site visit that a lot of stuff was out of place because they were cleaning up and all this and that. But I do know this for a fact, and I know of given time that our school can rise to the occasion. I know we have the people, we have the staff to do what we need to do. And even though that our school district have been, according to some 60 men or some of them, that have been rated the most poorest school district in the nation, that really don't matter to us. We can get up there and do the best within of it.
Has the board quantified? I've heard several times you're asking for more time. Have you discussed what period of time you think it requires to make the transformation?
I think some of the things that was in there already had a working date. According to our strategic plan, that already had a working date. And I think that some of those that they did look at it had not matured yet. And so some of those main things that they're talking about, I know that we can reach those we have in the past, and we can do it again. And as I said, with the years that I've been there, I've seen this school do well. Even though that the state mandate that you do much more with less, and we have a poverty county where we don't have the tax base that we can compete with surrounding school like Columbus, which is a booming economy that industry come in, your copter, all these different kind of industry. So we don't have anything, but I think that we are doing pretty good, holding our own, and having a problem with recruiting teachers because teachers don't really want to come to our area because there's nothing there for them. no hotels, really, no really good, like, house and stuff with them. So we trying to do something to attract teachers. And I just know that we can do that. And I just want to get my thing because I was on my way out. I was supposed to have been retired when the other went out, but after we had lost so many key people, and I was one of the ones that had a lot of experience, and I had people from the all district pleaded with me to stay, because we wanted to have some kind of experience there. And my goal was that when I left and when I retired, and I'm still holding to that. I'm Pastor Stewart, and I still hold to that. We have set some goals and things that we've done. We built new schools and the community, they rallied behind us, passed the bond issue to do it. We have renovated some old buildings, and my goal was to see that, and then when I go out, have all the school districts being rated successful. And I truly hope and pray that you all give us that opportunity, that I may see that last dream of mine fulfilled.
One additional comment. I mentioned earlier that we want to look within and realign our resources, but one key position we want to create and have somebody designated with that responsibility is a compliance position. And with that person having the responsibilities of constantly looking at each one of those 32 process standards and reporting to the board on an interval as to the status of. So we don't ever want to get caught in this position. So we're gonna designate that responsibility to somebody other than the superintendent, because his hands are full, that will monitor every one of those process standards. And that was one of the things that we want to go back and get with our full board through our policy development and create a position and give that person those responsibilities. That at maybe on a quarterly basis, that person will come before the board, submit their report, and we spread it up on our minutes that we are in compliance. And I think that would be a monitoring component to make sure, or to assure that we are always in compliance.
One additional thing in terms of additional time, if given additional time at the rate that our present firm that we have doing our audits are working, we're going to be finished and up to date with all of our audits by December. And that would certainly give us opportunity to borrow money and do other kinds of things, our 3 mil note, buy buses and those kind of things.
But we also just paid off the last note this year, you can speak to that, on our high school. So we are, when we get our audit up to date, we will be in a position to reinitiate that loan. And we got 4 old buildings that we tentatively would like to build a new complex that will house all 3 of those, so we can get our kids out of these old buildings. But one of those buildings on that DFW Elementary campus was built in 1925, and we've been patching, repairing. It's in pretty decent shape, but you can imagine an old building that was built in 1925. So that is a long-term plan, but it's all pending on our present auditor get through that process, so we'll be in position to do some business and get some things done in our district. And we certainly reaching out, asking you all to look at those documents that we prepared. Our staff worked hard, and then consider giving us some more time.
Superintendent Liddell, could you comment on we talk about the children and we're talking about learning, we're talking about school, and no one has said anything about curriculum and the children's learning. When I read through the things that I see about the curriculum, what plans have you made? Do we have a curriculum director who's going to oversee each grade, what's being taught, that it's being taught? And when I look in there and look at what we talk about in terms of lesson plans and teachers planning lesson plans and what the children are learning, you said you presented improvements. You turned it in to MDE yesterday. Could you comment on curriculum? That's what school is, learning and wanting our children to get the most out that they can so they can be successful in life.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of curriculum, I want to hear something about curriculum.
Man, unfortunately, our district doesn't have a curriculum director, and because of that, there's no one at the district level that has that only job. Our federal program director help in that area, so I depend on the principals, myself and principals, to be the leaders on the curriculum.
Are these the same principals that were there back in 2013 and 2014 and 2015? Are they different principals? Because when I look at my performance guide, I see performance kind of going down, and usually you have a person over that to make sure that the principals are doing what they need to do.
Right.
And the principals make sure the teachers are doing what they're doing. What is your plan of improvement? What's the plan of improvement?
My plan of improvement would be to ask the school board to allow us to reopen a curriculum director's position and possibly an assistant superintendent position. There are many areas that I have to supervise directly and that have direct reports to only me. But in terms of the curriculum director, we have been talking. We understand that's a crucial position.
That's school. School is curriculum.
That's right.
That's number one.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was wondering, in the report that you sent in for correction, is anything mentioned in there about what our plans are to correct that?
On the one that was sent in yesterday, the answer is no, because we were trying to send in information that MDA missed. It was there that they missed. And, given the corrective action time, certainly we will put one in place. Go ahead.
Looking at federal program piece, you will find instruction management documents and dropout prevention plan document. You'll see a lot of those educational pieces scattered through those documents throughout there. But I mentioned earlier strategic planning. I'm a former superintendent and an educator for almost 35 or 36 years, so I do know the value of strategic planning. And when we revisit that, I've gone through 2 strategic planning process, then all of those issues of curriculum will be incorporated into. And we want to make that document the guidepost for our action. Every action that is taken in the district, every dime that is spent in the district will have to be tied back to that strategic plan, those goals and objectives that we put in that plan. So I think the starting point is to get that document, get that review process, and in the next couple of months have a product before the board to be approved, because it's so important. Everything that we do needs to tie back into that strategic plan. And I know that will improve instruction, because it will be a working document that everybody, and even the community, will have a stake in knowing exactly where we're going and where we're trying to get.
Anthony Montgomery, I want to follow up on a statement you made. I'm concerned about the reported accuracy for graduation rate. Now, did you say that all 22 of the students cited, you went back and they did meet the requirements to actually graduate?
Yes, sir.
That's 18% of your graduation rate.
Yes, sir.
We have anything in place where your guidance counselors are going to be meeting with sophomores and juniors as they're moving into those years to ensure that they're on course to graduate. Because at least twice a year, each student should be meeting with a guidance counselor to ensure that they're on course for graduation and that they're meeting the requirements. Do you have anything in place to ensure that these students are getting that type of attention?
Yes, sir. And we have documentation at the building level to prove it. We have 2 counselors in our high school, 9th and 10th grade counselor and an 11th and 12th grade counselor. And at the beginning of the year, the 12th grade, 11th and 12th grade counselor ensure that she meet with each student and document on the sheet that requirements been met or not met, and put in place the things that need to happen before graduation. We have that.
I would just like to, I think that we have 2 of the most dedicated counselors I know at the high school is the one that he's talking about. And I was so impressed, and I wish that you all guys get an opportunity to come to one of those graduations and see him. I have been in a lot of places, and just to show you how much this high school counselor is involved with a student. On graduation night, I was impressed. She's so involved with a student, she know them name by name. She don't have to sit there and read a list when she calling their name up to graduate. She know them by name and by faces, and that really impressed me. He deeply cares about their student.
One explanation on our counselor commented to me, said that the counselor's office and the district testing coordinator office are in different locations. And some of that last information, there are several number of ways that a graduate can meet those requirements. And some of that information was in the director of testing office, I believe. So they had to, and so when they did the interview, they didn't get that information, that those other requirements that person met that was not attached to. So they had to bring those 2 offices together.
But they're supposed to be, it's all that documentation is supposed to be posted in their cumulative record is where they examine that, and that's the final record of that student. That's why I wanted to bring reference to that. I have another question about special education. Back in February of 2017, the department came in for an audit, and there were findings, and you were given until March of 2018 to clear those audit findings, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were those cleared?
We addressed them, and we did address those findings. I just don't remember the final letter that we received saying they were clear or not.
Okay, because those are, to me, one of the most in need children that we face in Mississippi are those students that depend on an IEP. And we as school officials have to do everything possible. And we're asking for more time for the district. I'm looking at, okay, you were given time then, those deficits were not corrected. Y'all say y'all corrected some things. I just, as a commission member, I haven't seen anything where it's corrected. Are we going to have any privy to this, any of the corrections that y'all submitted?
I submitted them on yesterday, the date that MDE said I could submit them.
Y'all bring in for us to see today?
And what Dr. Vanderfoot said was that they would review all that documentation we brought and delete the standards that we satisfied today. But I don't know if they went reviewed our document. It was 2 big binders of information. I don't know if they reviewed it or not.
All right.
Dr. Vandenberg, do you want to address this?
So as Mr. Liddell stated, when we met with the district on Friday and provided them the report, part of the conversation was the fact that the letter did not indicate that they would have a 30-day response time to respond, to the findings outlined in the report because of the serious concerns related to, the financial piece and the concern that we had that they could not make payroll in July. And so part of the clarification too that I'll make initially is that, the district certainly, wants more time and wants us, the agency, to loan them the money, but the problem is the statute doesn't allow us to loan the money under the School Financial Assistance Fund without the determination of a state of an emergency. But I did tell the superintendent and the board president that if they asked, could they provide information to the commission, and I said, yes, you may, but if you wait and distribute it to the commission the day of, and the program office have not had time to review it, we would not be able to appropriately respond to that. And so I told them as long as that we got it prior to like noon today, within a 1 hour notice. And so we did receive a delivery at 4 o'clock yesterday. And staff have worked through the evening and up until the moment to prepare a summary of all 32 process standards, or the 26 that were non-compliant, should I say. And so Dr. Malone, we had devised a process to distribute it to the program offices. So when we received the two binders, unfortunately there was personally identifiable information in 3 of the sections, which prohibited us from scanning and emailing each program office their section. For example, like special education, that we would just scan all of that documentation to that office for review. So what we did starting about 5 o'clock yesterday was ask all the program offices within the agency to come to one central location within the office and review the documentation. And then Dr. Malone asked the program office to indicate whether or not there was any evidence to provide compliance, or there were no evidence to provide compliance, or insufficient evidence, or whether or not the response was in a form of a corrective action plan. So what I've done is summarize the standards into categories. So for policy 2.1 and 12 of the standards, the district did not provide any evidence. They just did not address it. And then there was the category for what the district provided in the form of corrective action, and they did that for 3 of the standards. And then there were the category of insufficient evidence, that was for 6 standards. And then there was 2 categories that are kind of a combination, either no evidence was provided or the evidence that was provided was insufficient. And so that was for 3 of the standards. And then there's a combination of there was insufficient evidence or there was possible evidence to clear, and that was in the case of 2 standards. So bottom line, there's 2 standards that we have evidence that we believe that we could possibly clear, but unfortunately it would not clear the entire standard. It would clear only a portion of the standard. And a good example of that would be like with standard 13 for instructional time. It's broken down into like standard 3.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's like 5 components. And so there's a possibility that we clear 13.1 based on the evidence, 13.3, and 13.5. But then there was no evidence provided for 13.2 and 13.4, so it wouldn't clear that standard. So, the answer to the question is, yes, there is limited evidence that could clear, but it still would not remove an entire standard from their records.
There's still 26 of them.
Right, and so we had evidence to possibly clear 2 of the 26.
Mr. Vandenberg, go over again, Dr. Vandenberg, the standard policy about MDE not being able to loan money unless it's a state of emergency. I didn't quite get that. What was it again?
Okay, so, it might be better for legal counsel to address it, but you have, 3717.6, is a statute that's provided, in your binders or was emailed to those members on the phone. And it's in section, 15B, and which is on page 10 of that document, and it says, in order to provide loans to school districts under a state of an emergency. So this historically would be the 5th district that would need assistance from the school financial assistance fund, and it requires a declaration of the state of an emergency to provide those funds. Hence being the sense of emergency for us to, have to turn around. And so Dr. Gavin would certainly be able to be the one on the agency's behalf that would, speak to the concern of not meeting, July payroll.
Are there any other questions from the commission members of either party?
Yes, this is Brian Harvey, superintendent with the Oxford School District, and I don't know which of the board members mentioned this, but you mentioned hiring someone, creating a position, and hiring someone that would monitor the accreditation standards. And this is a question to the board members, because one of the things that is in violation is governance, and so this goes to governance. In your opinion, what do you think the superintendent should be doing?
That particular standard would fall under superintendent's responsibility because it relates to him communicating to all of the directors, all of the principals. But it does go back to the school board responsibility in making sure that in our policy and in our system that we have a system for monitoring to make sure that is done and to hold somebody accountable when it's not done. So we're going to revisit our policy that address those areas and to put some teeth and strength in it, so that we can hold people accountable when there's inaction. But I mentioned earlier that we want to realign our resources, and we're not, until I get back with the board, we're not quite sure how we're going to do it in the superintendent, but we want to delegate that responsibility to a particular person that reports back to the board and keep us informed that we are in good standing with all of those process standards.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a follow-up on what Mr. Hodges was saying. This Eddie Prater, would that cause the board to get over into operation to the board president if you start having other employees in the district to report to the board other than the superintendent? And what do you see your role in that as a board member?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That person will, in the monitoring process, they'll make a report before the board, but I wasn't referencing they'll be actually supervised by the board. That, in answering your question, that would be a violation of our line of staff or chain of command. But we do, in our policy, that person, through the superintendent, will come before the board, just like our finance director. She comes before the board and do reports. But she's basically supervised by the superintendent. And we have not changed that chain of command yet, or even thought about it.
Our board members elected or appointed?
Elected.
Borrowing this, are they saying that they would not be allowed to borrow any money unless they are declared in the state of emergency? Otherwise, you cannot borrow that money. Is that my understanding? That's my understanding.
Any other questions from the commission?
Let me mention one thing. She mentioned that the board, that we would not be made, we will be able to make payroll for July. The problem will come up at the end of August. So that's why we're asking for additional time.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. We are going to roll into closing arguments. At this time, if the commission members need just a minute to stand up, stretch their legs or anything, so that way we can go right into deliberations. Couple minutes? No, we're good. Okay.
We're one accord.
All right, we will now entertain closing argument from the legal representative for the district. Have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benny L. Jones. I'm the general counsel for Knoxville County School District. And in my closing argument, summation, I guess it's one of those situations where the commission, in this instance, is the jury. And I would like to point out something that came up during your questions in particular, that I guess it could be deemed to have been a perfect storm in a sense, negative sense, in that the superintendent was recently elected. He's a new superintendent who came in January the 1st of 2016. Business manager is a new business manager. She came in December of 2016. I, as general counsel, was hired in January of 2017, and I came in playing catch up. And we have a lot of different legal things going on that we are juggling at this time and have been since day one. We were encouraged when we got an email from Ms. Donna Nestor on Friday, June the 8th at 12:56 p.m. It was received by Ms. Pam Morris, our business manager, and it states from Ms. Donna Nestor, Pam, we are committed to assisting you in your efforts to achieve and maintain a healthy financial condition in the district. Should the district feel the need to request financial assistance from the department, MDE, the superintendent needs to issue a formal request on letterhead. The statutory reference for an emergency loan is Mississippi Code 37-17-6. Please email the letter to Dr. Felicia Gavin at the following email address. She gives that. She's the current Chief Financial Officer at the Mississippi Department of Education. We need to know your decision about requesting financial assistance by 4 p.m. today. The process is time sensitive and involves many aspects before an actual loan could occur. You may also want to contact Debbie Jones, who is a retired business manager with over 30 years of experience in school district finance, who often contracts with districts to assess financial conditions. And she gives Ms. Debbie Jones's contact number. If you have any questions concerning this process, please contact our office. Donna. So this was a Friday when I received the call. I believe it was shortly after 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And I believe I received a call from the superintendent as well as Ms. Pam Morris. So I started a frantic series of phone calls to try to get up with Dr. Gavin or Ms. Nestor. And finally, I talked to Ms. Lakeisha Johnson, I believe she's the receptionist, and she was very, very gracious in trying to get me in contact with with Dr. Gavin and with Miss Nestor. Dr. Gavin I never was able to reach, but I did reach Miss Nestor about 4:30 p.m. and had a great conversation with her. And I was really encouraged from that conversation. And I sent her a follow-up email, and I copied Dr. Gavin, and I stated, "Thank you for reaching out to the Knoxville County School District on today, June 8th, concerning your ongoing communication with the district through our business manager, Mr. Pam Norris. This letter is a follow-up to my conversations with both Ms. Donna Nestor and before that with Ms. Johnson. We also tried to reach Dr. Felicia Gavin. Lines were busy. However, I was able to finally reach Ms. Donna Nestor by 4:30 p.m. or so. The Board of Trustees appreciate your desire to assist the Knoxville County School District with our financial status. The desire of the district is to have me to review 3717-6 and further communicate with you no later than noon on Tuesday, June the 12th. We had a board meeting coming up, and we wanted to share that with the board and have the board to make a decision. A proposed letter had already been drafted. So we still look forward to that continued relationship with the financial arm of the Mississippi Department of Education. And we certainly hope that you will take that into consideration, that help was offered, and we did accept it. On June the 25th, an audit team arrived in the Knoxville County School District from MDE. On Friday the 13th, in the afternoon, the audit report was delivered to Mr. Roger Liddell, and I believe the president of the board. So the district only had Saturday the 14th, Sunday the 15th, Monday the 16th, and Tuesday the 17th to respond. 4 days to respond to alleged violations of 26 standards. They responded without adequate time to do a thorough, in-depth response, and the state board, now the state commission, and the state board is to meet on Thursday, July 19, at 10 a.m., which is tomorrow. And we don't believe that we were given adequate response time, and we would request that under the standards that are presented, and that is Title VII Education K-12 Part 139 Accreditation Audit Procedures. It states that, and of course that's under Procedures of Accreditation, Policy 5. Usually the superintendent is given 30 days to respond to an audit report, and the only thing we want is fairness and due process, and we are asking for the same consideration that the board gave to Jackson Public Schools for the Knoxville County School District, with due respect. I believe you were in the Jackson Public School District for several months, and then they were given an opportunity to do a corrective action plan. We most respectfully request the same consideration for the Knoxville County School District, and we would suggest a time frame of allowing us, with due respect, until the 31st of March of 2019 to give us an opportunity to come into compliance with all of the deficiencies that are alleged in the audit report. We also have some other factors. We understand the seriousness of the situation that we find ourselves in. And one of the most pressing points right now is that school starts on August the 1st, just a few days away. We are now at July 19, and we think it probably would be imprudent should the Mississippi Department of Education were to take over the Knoxville County School District at this time. It would cause a lot of chaos and confusion because we're in the process of opening school and staffing. And all we want, as I stated, is fairness and due process.
Thank you. That is 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
The chairman stepped out for just 1 second. Should be back.
Now entertain closing arguments from the legal representative for the Office of Accreditation.
Good afternoon, Commission members. My name is Erin Meyer. I'm a Special Assistant Attorney General, and I serve as counsel to the Office of Accreditation. The MDE called this meeting today because action's necessary. You received the audit report. You've heard today from MDE and from the district. The district would have you believe that they've fixed some things, but quick fixes like covers on electrical outlets don't clear violations, and suggested corrective actions don't demonstrate effective leadership or successful implementation. The district has excuses, but today they remain in serious noncompliance, a fact they've admitted. As a point of clarification, the audit procedures state the following. Depending on the severity and the extent of deficiencies, one of the following will take place. No action is taken, and the district responds to the site visit findings. The next three bullets list, a recommendation is made to the Commission on School Accreditation for probation, to withdraw the district's accreditation status, or to determine that extreme emergency exists. The only option that provides a timeline for the district to respond to the site findings is that first bullet if no action is taken. That is the only time that triggers that 30 school days. Today, the MDE urges you to make a decision to determine, in accordance with 3717.6.12b, that an extreme emergency situation exists in the Noxubee County School District that jeopardizes the safety, security, and educational interests of the children in this district, and that this emergency situation is based on violations of accreditation standards, federal and state law, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a pattern of poor academic performance. There is no other choice. The district cannot continue to function without the state's assistance. There are 6 schools in Noxubee. The district is in violation of 81% of the accreditation standards. They're in violation of 7 of the 8 areas that are considered the most egregious. They are in dire financial need, and they are an F district for the 2nd consecutive year. Dr. Vanderford and Dr. Gavin have articulated the most critical systemic findings, and I'll summarize a few. Lesson plans are inadequate. Library resources and textbooks are outdated. Qualifications and criminal background checks on employees are lacking. Student records lack documentation and data. 24 students participated in graduation exercises without documentation to support they met the minimum requirements, which calls into question their graduation rate. The district has failed to provide children with disabilities a free, appropriate public education. Safety plans and crisis management plans are outdated. The transportation fleet needs maintenance. Clean and sanitary facilities are not being provided. There's a litany of issues with reporting, discrepancies between contracts, employees in emphasis, and with salaries. The superintendent has failed to provide effective educational leadership and effective implementation of policies, and has failed to develop board and community relations. The board and the superintendent have failed to comply with the financial accountability standards. And speaking of finances, the district has significant deficits, and the ability to continue making payroll is questionable. They're non-compliant with the audits. They've questioned costs under federal programs. Without money to operate the district, the teachers cannot be paid. Therefore, there will be no instruction, there'll be no learning, there'll be no growing for those students in that district. School starts in a couple of weeks. This is critical. And performance. The district has met the state board's definition of failing for 2 consecutive years. More than 50% of the schools are failing. Based on the 2017 accountability data, the district performed at the bottom of the state in reading, math, science, U.S. history, and Algebra 1. Nothing changes if nothing changes. The MDE, the Commission, the State Board of Education, the governor must facilitate change. The Noxubee County School District has failed its students. The students are being denied a quality education. They're being denied the opportunity and tools necessary to achieve the success the state board envisions. Today, the Commission needs to determine that an extreme emergency exists in the district. In this instance, safety, security, and the educational interests are problematic. The district is in violation of standards and law. The district is an F district for the past 2 years, and over 50% of the schools are failing. And there is the financial situation. The district needs the state's help. They cannot get any financial assistance without a state of an emergency. The district cannot function without the state's help. Change must happen to make change. 1,585 students should not be deprived of the opportunity to receive the education they deserve. Commission, it is your duty to act. Change starts with you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, commission members, we will now move on to item 4. Commission members, we have heard from the Office of Accreditation. We have also heard from the district. Before us, we must determine whether an extreme emergency situation exists in the Noxubee County School District. Tom, we will have any discussion.
This is Sarah Foster. I just want to clarify that the only way the district can receive a loan from the Department of Education is for it to be in a state of emergency. Is that correct?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into special session.
Okay.
The motion you would need to make is that we go into a closed session in order to discuss whether to go into executive session.
I'd like to suggest that we go into I make the motion that we go into a closed session to discuss this.
Okay, we have a motion to go into closed session. Dr. Martin, do I have a second?
Mike Miller, second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Members that are on the phone, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will go into closed session. Since we have members on the phone, the commission's going to stay here. So we will ask that anyone in the audience please exit. Please make sure that you take any phones, recording equipment, any electronics with you, please. Okay, at this time, the commission is back in open session.
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
Okay. I'm going to read that resolution in its entirety into the record. Whereas pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated section 37-17-6-12B, the Commission on School Accreditation met in a special called meeting on July 18, 2018 to determine whether there is sufficient cause to believe that an extreme emergency situation exists in the Knoxville County School District which jeopardizes the safety, security, and educational interest of the children enrolled in the schools of that district. Whereas the Office of Accreditation, Mississippi Department of Education, presented certain information to the Commission regarding the Knoxville County School District's impairments related to serious violations of federal and state law and accreditation standards, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a continued pattern of poor academic performance. A copy of which is attached in Exhibit A and incorporated by reference as part of this resolution. Now, therefore, the Commission on School Accreditation finds the following. The Commission finds that there is sufficient cause to believe that an extreme emergency situation exists in the Knoxville County School District brought on by serious findings related to serious violations of federal and state law and accreditation standards, serious concerns regarding financial resources, inappropriate standards of governance, and a continued pattern of poor academic performance, which jeopardizes the safety, security, and educational interest of the children enrolled in the schools of this district, in which, without intervention by the Commission on School Accreditation and the Mississippi Board of Education, could result in the continuation of an inadequate and unstable educational environment, thereby denying the students of this district the opportunity to learn, to excel, and to obtain a free and appropriate public education. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Montgomery, a second by Mr. Gill. Is there any discussion? Okay, we will now vote. Members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members that are on the phone, all in favor?
Aye. 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 Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries. All right, item 5 on the agenda, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved by Mr. Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Any discussion? Members present, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? We are adjourned at 4:37 p.m. Thank you very much. Everybody, please be careful going home.